This one I might stumble through a lot. It's a complicated thing to explain. Hey everybody, I'm Tiffany Weber and I'm a North Carolina real estate attorney, and today I'm answering the question, what is a double closing? Now, most often the term double closing is used in a wholesaling context, but every once in a while we'll have people talk about a double closing, and what they mean is they're selling their house and then buying another house. In our office, we would probably call that a back-to-back closing because you're just doing one right after another. But in the wholesaling context, basically what happens is a wholesaler goes under contract with a seller for one price, and then they, pretty near in time to going under contract, identify a buyer for that property at a higher price. So this allows them to make a pretty quick profit. But in some states, what the wholesaler tries to do is use the money from the end buyer to purchase the property from the seller and never uses their own money. In North Carolina, that is not possible. So we don't have what most wholesalers would call a double closing in North Carolina. So what you have to do in North Carolina is, first, the wholesaler buys the property from the seller at the agreed upon price, and then sells to the buyer at that separate agreed upon price. Or, in order to avoid two transactions, the wholesaler assigns their contract with the seller to the buyer and takes an assignment fee. So whatever the increased price is that they're selling to the buyer gets paid to them as an assignment fee. But here's the thing, that has to be disclosed to all parties, and it's going to show up on the closing statement as a line item. So I'll have wholesalers contact me and say, well, I want to do this thing, but I don't really want the seller to know that what the buyer's paying me for it. Or I don't want the buyer to know what the seller is going to sell it for. And I have to tell them, I'm sorry, in North Carolina, our ethics rules and our laws require that it be done this way. So some wholesalers can get a little frustrated by the fact that they have to disclose the assignment fee on the closing disclosure. But what it really comes down to is that North Carolina, under any circumstances, will not allow the wholesaler to be paid by the buyer for the property before they own it. So there really is only, those two ways to do it. Go ahead and buy the property from the seller and then turn around and sell it to the buyer in a completely separate transaction, or take the assignment fee and have it disclosed to all the parties on the closing statement. So hopefully, if you're a wholesaler, you're not just extremely angry by finding this out that you can't do it the way that you can in other states in North Carolina, but this is how you can approach it. And if you are a wholesaler and you're wanting to do double closings or try to figure out a way to get this process accomplished in North Carolina, make sure to talk to a real estate attorney, because this was a very simple explanation, not getting into a ton of the details and the ethics opinions that are out about this topic. So you're going to want to talk to a real estate attorney before you're drafting any contracts or before you're entering into any contracts, to make sure that you're doing things the proper way and not in a way that's going to get you or any of the other parties in trouble. And then also so that you understand what's required of you so that this can get closed properly and ethically in North Carolina. So that's what a double closing is. The short answer is there isn't really such a thing in North Carolina, not in the way that it is in other states. And hopefully that was helpful to you, and we'll catch you in the next video.